Welcome to Faith Walk Life Talk podcast. We embark on a journey through the untold stories of the Bible's unsung heroines. Join us as we deep dive into the lives of remarkable women whose narratives are often overlooked but carry profound wisdom and inspiration. From their triumphs to their trials, we'll uncover the timeless lessons embedded in their journeys, lessons that resonate powerfully with women today. Get ready for engaging, thought-provoking, and sometimes delightfully humorous conversations that shed new light on the remarkable women of the Bible. Welcome to a podcast that promises to enlighten, uplift, and entertain. Welcome to Faith Walk Life Talk podcast. I'm your host, Elder Empress. Welcome to our next episode of Faith Walk Life Talk podcast. I'm excited today. It's a new season, it's a new year, but most importantly, it's a new day. And I'm your host, Elder Empress, and I'm yet faith walking in my stilettos. I'm excited today. I have a good episode for you. Many of you have said, Empress, we want to know more about you. We want to hear your story. And I hear you. I've got you. And I'm going to raise you one. And so today, my guest is none other than the king of my heart, my other half. If you want to know my story, if you want to know who I am, you have to see my better half. And so today, I have as my special guest, my boo. Many of you know that I call him my boo on social media. And I call him Boo so much that they don't even know his name, but he is Terrence Henderson, Deacon Terrence Henderson. Some know him as Mr. Henderson. And he's my special guest on this episode of The Greatest Love Story Ever Told. Welcome. Hey, Boo.
Hi. What's up? What's going on?
How you feeling?
I'm feeling fine. I'm just wondering what questions you have for me.
Well, we'll get into that, but why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself? Introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Terrence Henderson. Raised, born in Queens, St. Albans. Lived there for the better half of my life. Went to all of the community schools, PS 136. That was my elementary school. PS 192 was my middle school. Andrew Jackson was my high school. Left from Andrew Jackson, went to SUNY Stony Brook. Graduated in 89. And after that, I started teaching. And I'm in my 33rd year. I'm about to retire. And that's a wrap as far as, my profession is concerned. And during that time, I bumped into an old friend that I've practically known all my life. In a funny, well, I wouldn't say funny event for me, but a bad event for the person I was dating at the time.
Oh, so you want to just jump in? Yeah. You want to just jump in?
I mean...
Well, I guess we'll start with that. We'll lead with, but before you go into how we bumped into each other, why don't we share the beginning? Because we have a unique story, would you say?
Yeah.
How our destinies really collided from a long, long time ago. So I know your side of the story kind of seems a little different than mine. So I'll let you.
No, it's accurate.
Well, I'll let you tell our listeners and our viewers your side of the story.
Okay. So many, many years ago, my father, he was a factory worker during the day, and in the evening he was a bartender / bouncer at a local pub. One day a young lady came in, asked if he was hiring, and lo and behold, it was my wife's mother. So they had a good relationship for a while. Whenever she went to work from time to time, she would drop this young lady off to my mother's house because my mother babysat her for a while. As she got older, she was able to go to the elementary school. And from time to time, my mother would ask my father to go by and pick her up and take her to school. And we all attended the same elementary school. So I used to have shotgun. Sat in the front, my other two brothers would be in the back seat. However, whenever my father went to pick her up, I was forced to go to the back seat and she would go and sit in the front seat. And not only was that an insult, but she would also turn around and call all three of us, me and my other two brothers, big heads.
Oh,
you know.
I'm gonna tell that part.
Yeah.
I always
She always teased.
That's another thing about me that people don't know.
She was the sister I was glad I didn't have.
Really?
You know?
Because if I were your sister, then I wouldn't have become your wife.
Yeah, I guess I'm glad.
It all worked out for you.
But my brothers, my brothers were smart. Whenever we would drop her off at the school, they would run out the car real quick. So I was the last one holding the bag. So my father would say, make sure Empress gets to her class. Hold her hand, walk her to her class, and you get to class.
Yeah, so
I was heated.
That's the beginning. Our parents were friends.
Yeah.
But you left out a key part. Our family, so from my perspective, many of you know that when I was about 4 or 5, my father was incarcerated. And when he was incarcerated, my mom was left with 2 children. I was the age of 5 and my brother was 4. And so she was a stay-at-home mom at the time. And she didn't come into the pub asking for a job. Your father knew that she needed a job and recommended her.
Right. Yes,
he said, I will teach you how to become a bartender. Mm-hmm. And he said, and I'm going to further help you. When I take my sons to school, I'll pick up Empress and I'll see to her getting to school too. So your father was a major support to my mom at that time. And yes, your responsibility was to hold my hand and see to me getting to my kindergarten class. So you've been holding my hand for quite some time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the genesis of our story.
Right.
And so I sense that you didn't appreciate doing it at the time.
Absolutely not.
Oh, but there was a day when I turned about 16.
Oh yeah, from time to time when I came home from some of my summer breaks, I would see her in the neighborhood from time to time. And, as she got older, I looked at her, I was like, oh, Empress, I looked at her that way. And to myself, I'm like, nah, this is just this girl that, that your mother babysat, who you used to drop off at the school, and left it at that. But during that time, we had a great appreciation for music. And I thought it'd be nice before I went back to school to make a nice little mixtape. And you know how we all used to make mixtapes back in the day? You would have to sit in front of the radio and wait for the music to come on, and then you had to click it at the right time. So I put a whole lot of effort in this tape.
And I still have it. I still have the tape.
Yeah, I know.
Our son found it.
Our son found it, yeah. And I let her use it. I didn't want her to keep it. But because I said I let her use it, I guess from time to time, that was my excuse to come back and forth looking for my tape. But at that point, I could never find her, so I just totally forgot about the tape,
So we did leave out, your mother did babysit me.
Yeah.
That's another,
right.
right. Yeah, I always forget, because when I was in kindergarten, it was half days at that time. So your father arranged for your mom to take care of me for the other half of the day. So yeah, really our story is really, really all the way, it's intricately interwoven all throughout in different phases. And then, yeah, as a teenager, we shared that, that common interest in music. And you made me that love CD.
Slow jam CD.
That's okay. Well, slow jam cassette. It wasn't CDs at that time.
Right, cassette.
And always ask for it back, but that was really your aim to keep the connection.
Yeah, but after I hadn't seen you for a while, so I didn't keep it.
Well, I don't know if you said I just think we kind of just drifted away. And so many things happen, and one of the things that many don't know is during our time where you went off to school, and I went off to school, and then we kind of went our different paths. That I had a child, Xavier.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I later found out was the day that I was giving birth to Xavier, my brother bumped into you.
No, your mother.
My mother.
Your mother, yeah.
And, so
and
that...
she had told me.
Yeah. It was just almost like you were peeking into my life, little by little, edging back in.
Yeah,
And it was 9 months later, after I had Xavier, I found myself in a predicament where I was going to be a single mother. And it was my birthday. Xavier was 9 months old. And I was supposed to go out on a date for my birthday. And I was stood up.
Right.
And I said, I'm still going out. I'm not going to let one monkey stop my show. It's true. And I went to a local bar. And as I was coming out of the bar, you were coming in.
Yeah, and that was so funny how that worked out, because I had no business over there. I would never find myself out in the middle of the week, going to a local lounge or a bar or just hanging out, because I took work seriously, But that particular night, I was very upset. When I got off of work, during the time I was dating a young lady, and I went over to her house and we started talking. And the next thing you know, we were arguing. So I said, my days are going to end like this. So I went home. I had a little gym in the basement. I pumped some iron for a while.
Did all that?
I went upstairs, took a shower, got dressed, hopped in the car. I said, Ma, I'll see you later on. Get out the car, begin to walk into the club doors, and lo and behold, I see this beautiful, short young lady. Oh. And I'm like, oh. Kept looking, I said, Empress? And she looked up, Terrence? And that was all she wrote.
We've been together ever since that.
Ever since.
Well, not really, because...
No, because you played the chase.
I didn't.
I didn't.
It was an accident.
Yeah.
So let me tell the story.
Yeah, okay.
Let me tell the story. I had just got my first cell phone, and I didn't know the number too well, and I gave you the incorrect phone number. But it was accidental.
Well, I still had your mother's number.
That's what I appreciate. You really did chase a little. You didn't stop there.
And your mother I'm pretty sure she had gotten sick of me every time I called. Did you speak to Empress yet? Did you tell her I called? Did you misplace my number? Here's my number again.
My mother said, would you call that boy? He keeps coming to my job asking about you. And at the time, I was still figuring things out. I had this baby. Love clearly wasn't working for me. And so I had resigned that it was just going to be me and my baby. But one day I was home and I said, I'm going to call this number. I'm going to call him. And I invited you over.
Right.
And you came over. So tell the viewers when you came over, how did you feel? Because it was very different.
Well, when I came over, he greeted me and everything, and we sat down and was talking. And then my baby started crying. And I said, oh, that's Xavier, right? He said, yeah, hold on a second. And she brought Xavier into the room, you know. She was like, say hi. And, he was looking at still a ball of joy. I'm like, and I
Yeah.
love babies. I love kids. So, I was like, well, can I hold him? He gave them to me. And next thing you know, I was rocking him. He was looking at me. He was looking at her like, who's this dude? Like, but there was kind of like an immediate connection there.
Yeah.
And, with that quick moment, I said, okay, P, what are you doing? You like this woman a whole lot, but the son is there as well, you know. And I didn't put too much thought into it because for some reason or another, it didn't even bother me.
Wow. It wasn't
It
something
did.
that you really wrestled with,
And
along with a
honestly,
child?
at that point, honestly, no, you know. But I grown very attached to that young man.
Almost immediately.
Immediate, yeah.
What I appreciate early on, we didn't have to do a lot of getting to know one another because we knew each other all our lives. I remember that first date you tried to teach me how to play chess.
Yes.
Bouncing Xavier on your leg and just being very attentive to my baby. And I watched that. I at that time I wasn't watching it to see if you were the one, but it was intriguing to see how you just naturally gravitated to my baby. And then as we started to spend more time, you would come over with baby food and you checked diapers and you checked for my baby without me even asking. You just naturally fell into a space of providing for us, and then you became like a place, like a safe place for me. How were you able to just love my son like that? How were you able to do that?
Well, I love kids. That was one of the reasons I went into teaching. My family loved kids. My father loved kids.
He did.
My father was the dude that would come over and tease you a whole lot or beat you up and then take you out and get something to eat, and or take you to the park or something to play, somewhere to play, and I kind of like took on that same, position with the kids. It was just fun. And I'm glad he did that because without that, I don't think I would have gotten into the profession I was in, number one. And number two, perhaps those feelings that I had for Xavier really wouldn't have, come to fruition.
So there's a difference between I love kids, but when did you know I love this kid as my own?
Because I loved his mother, and I saw what she was doing for him, despite what was going on at the time. She didn't put him to the side just because a man was entering her life. Her priority was her baby, and she wasn't going to compromise behind it. I wasn't, and there was no way in the world I would even have a think that you need to get rid of this kid right now for me and give me all your attention. When I saw her love for her son, then I knew, this wasn't just an ordinary woman, who just wanted a dude in her life. But this was someone who made sure that that child came first before anything.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah. So our relationship quickly took off from that point, and we were going on dates. It was, 3 people. We would go on. You would set out picnics in the park for us with the baby, and he would be in the back seat of the car, or wherever we went, Xavier was in tow.
Yeah.
And so I remember I could just go back in my mind's mind and think of like sweet moments of you holding him and falling asleep on the couch.
Yeah.
Teaching him how to fish.
Yeah, that was fun.
Just you walked into a fatherly. You didn't know about being a father. You didn't have any preparation. There was not a whole big discussion. It just naturally happened for us. Our relationship, we were not saved at the time, and I guess, people need to know that because we moved in together. We lived as a family. Unmarried.
Right.
And I remember when Xavier, so when you came into his life, he was 9 months. And I remember as he was beginning to start talking, he started calling you Dad. And it was just so natural.
Yeah.
I remember when we were together and we watched him take his first steps together.
Yes. I believe we still have that on film, too, in the house.
We may.
Yeah.
So our love story just was so, it just unfolded so organically. It was very easy.
Yeah.
It was nothing that was complicated.
At all.
One would seem that it would have been, but it wasn't. And I watched you. So this part of the interview is very emotional because I watched you become. I could never even have imagined that my son would have had the father.
Well,
that you were.
It wouldn't have been any other way. It wouldn't have been any other way. You were 2 people I had to take care of.
Yeah.
That's all it boiled down to. And I've seen so many of my friends who would have kids and want to go and hang out all the time.
Yeah.
Or will call them out of their names like they tracked me or, But that wasn't the case for me. I love both of you.
You went to every basketball game, every football game.
He used to play at one point the drums and the saxophone, alto saxophone. Used to go to the concerts all the time.
Yeah. And what I appreciate was you were also hard on him. You didn't play with him.
Yeah. And that's the way my father was with me and my brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that, when he tried to act up in the very school that you taught.
Never knew I was around. Always speaking through classroom doors.
Yeah.
And he would act up, and one of his friends would tap him on it, like, "Your father's at the door." And he'll sit up, won't even look at the door. Look at the chalkboard, like he's taking notes. Like he was really doing his, It's funny. Yeah.
Tell us about what you thought. We ultimately we ended up getting married, and I always like to tell people we didn't do everything right.
No, nowhere near it.
But
it's all a learning experience for me, all brand new.
But now that I look back, God graced us.
He certainly
already had this moment in mind for us. Almost like he chose us for a journey that we could never even imagine.
Right.
That we would be taken together from when I was 5 and you were 10. We never could see this. And my mother often jokes that
Daddy too.
that they joked about what if we would get together, and we found each other. So we got married eventually.
But there was stipulations before we got married.
What was the stipulation?
Okay. At the time, I wasn't even earning that much money.
Oh, yes.
And, I said, I'll marry you, but I'm not going to marry you until I get my master's.
Yep, that was the agreement.
That was the agreement. And I wanted to make sure that I had got my master's right on time. Sometimes, at the time, you had up to 4 years to do it, but I completed mine in 2.
Are you bragging?
No, I'm not bragging, but
No.
That's how bad I wanted, to get married and, do this on time, I could have stretched it out and said, honey, look, I couldn't take this many classes this semester. It's just too much work. And I wanted to take care of it quick. And in 2 years' time, instead of the 4 that was given me, I got it. And that year, we got married.
Well, and what I appreciate is you promised me that. You said,
I told you.
I'm going to marry you once I complete my master's.
Mm-hmm.
And the day that you completed the day is when you told me you went and got the engagement ring.
Yeah.
And we planned the wedding. We had a beautiful wedding. Xavier was the ring bearer by that time. And we started our life. And so tell me about when Solomon came along, who's our second son.
Well,
when I told you I was expecting
Xavier. Well, first of all, Xavier kept saying, "I want a little brother. I want a little brother."
Yes, yeah.
And I wanted another son.
Did you want a son or another child?
I wanted another son.
Okay.
If daughter came around, hey, cool, but I wanted another boy.
Okay.
And when you came back, he told me, how I acted, I almost flipped. But at that point, we were living in an apartment.
One
bedroom apartment. And we both looked at each other and said, we have to get a house.
Yeah.
We have to get a house. We have to get a house. Now, that whole story is very interesting.
Well, so, can't tell our whole 25 years of marriage.
I know, but at least this was very important because at this point, before Solomon, I wasn't thinking about moving out of the apartment because we had beach on both sides of the building.
It was nice.
It was very nice. Okay.
We made it a nice home.
Right. And I mean, every weekend, me and Xavier would go out fishing right across the street, But when you told me that, we sat down and we was like, we have to get another place to live, And you want to go into that part too?
Well, I know you weren't, you didn't want to leave. You liked,
I really didn't want to,
being able to fish across the street and, just being by the water. We were very comfortable, but our life was our family was growing and changing. And, without all of the gory details, we found ourselves, we found ourselves purchasing a home in Uniondale. Right.
Right. No, but remember, we started I said, if we were going to move out to the island, I need to send out a bunch of resumes.
Oh, yeah. Yep. So, before that, you didn't even want to because you had already had 10 years in the New York City Board of Education, but you didn't want that commute.
Right. If we're going to look for a house, on Long Island, I didn't want to stay at the school that I had been teaching for 10 years at that point. So I sent out a bunch of resumes. When I say a bunch, I don't even remember, but all of them were to Long Island schools.
Right.
Okay. We went to the realtor.
Yeah.
We went to the realtor. The realtor was showing houses, and at the time, I had a Grand Prix.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were going to buy a house in Freeport.
Right.
And they broke into your car.
My car broke down.
And we went back the next day. It was broken into.
Right.
And stripped. And
Right.
so we said, we don't want to live in this neighborhood.
Right. So now there's a situation to get another car.
Get another car, and where do we live? In the middle of looking for.
Right.
Yes.
So we went to look for a car.
I'm pregnant.
And you're pregnant. And we're speaking to the car dealer, and she came straight up. Listen, we don't want to pay a lot of money for a car. We're looking for a house.
Right.
So the guy said, are you looking for a house? And he said, well, I happen to be a headhunter. He works for a realtor. And he said, well, this is house I'd like to show you.
Right. In Uniondale.
In Uniondale.
At the same time.
So at the same time, we see the house, we look at it, and we love it.
Right.
Okay. And we get the house. So we go back to where we used to live, and there's a letter in the mail from HR department. Guess where? Uniondale. Uniondale. So I'm like, wait a minute. Out of all the places that we sent these resumes,
yep,
we get one from Uniondale.
Yeah.
The place where we found a house.
Yep.
Now tell me, God,
he was all in it. He was all in it. So we spent our 14 years of our lives in Uniondale. You still teach in the school district.
Yeah.
And how many years you've been teaching there now?
And that school, in Uniondale, 22 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Uniondale.
I started teaching there when Solomon was born.
Yeah.
That September.
And we made our lives there. Mm-hmm. Bought a beautiful house. We raised our boys. Yeah. We had 2 dogs.
Yeah.
We bought Xavier that first year.
There you go. That's right. When Xavier turned 6. Was it? Yeah.
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 We bought him a
no, when he turned 7, we bought him a golden retriever.
Oh, 6.
Was it 6 right there? That's the same year that Solomon was born there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
But Solomon didn't like the dog.
No. Well, maybe he was 7.
But it had to be 7.
Because Solomon was like he wasn't quite a year.
Right.
Yeah, so we lived there. We had a good life there. The children, thrived there. They matriculated through the school system, same school system you taught in. And the first year or the second year we lived there, that's when we joined the church.
There you go. Yeah.
That's where, and we just kind of stumbled there because we wanted the kids to be introduced to the youth program. Mm-hmm. I think we kind of was all right with the way life was, going to our parties from time to time and doing the things that we do unsaved. We were all in and we was having a good time. We were not, thinking about living for God, but we started going to church. And shout out to in the memory of Bishop Frank Otha White. He was our spiritual father, and he called us out. We had a young family, and then we decided to give our lives to the Lord. Out of all those
people in the pews,
he called us out.
He called us out,
and we made a decision to live for the Lord and to raise our children in the fear of the Lord.
Yes.
And our whole lives shifted.
Big time. Yeah. And you would think that because you're joining the church, you're going to miss out on everything else. No, you miss out on everything else when you don't get to the church.
Really? Tell us about that.
Oh, yeah. If I didn't get saved, I would not have realized that I could live without the bars. I could live without the partying. I could live without the hanging out.
Yep.
It would be just as fun, if not more.
Wow. Yeah, we enjoy our lives. Living for the Lord, I would say.
Yeah.
When we say it's the best decision we ever made, we're
And
not
we
just
made it as a
saying
family. That's the beautiful thing
we
about
were
it.
definitely aligned. There was no
Let me leave the kids at home over. They don't feel like going. No, it was none of that.
we went as a family.
We went as a family, right?
Wow. So let me ask you this: what would you, what advice would you give a single man dating or in love with a woman with children?
Okay, think before you act. Now, if you feel as though this is something, if your mind is just geared on the mother, walk away. Walk away. Say, let's be friends and keep it at that and nothing else.
Why?
Well, because you run into a woman like you who puts their child first, it's bound to be doomed.
Wow.
It's bound to be doomed.
I guess for me, for a woman, from a woman's perspective, look for a man that loves every part of you.
Right. And
Every part of you,
and
not
we're
just
not
your person,
compromised.
but everything that comes along with you. I would say you loved us like completely. I will say this to for our listeners in terms of our marriage. I have never regretted giving my heart to you.
Same here, boo.
I have never questioned, did I make the right decision giving my heart to you? You have always handled my heart delicately. You have always walked out loving me as Christ loved the church. Even when you didn't know you were doing it, it became aware, I'm sure, as you became a man of God.
Yes.
Our marriage was never challenged to the degree that I thought I would ever leave you. And if God was to take one of us or take you away, I would never marry again because I would be marrying down.
I feel the same way.
And I remember, I'm going to go back to this, because when the night that we lost Xavier and we went home without him and we just held each other and cried, I know. And I said to you, this could never have been with anybody else. You were like the best father in the world. The best. You are a standard. You are the standard of a godly man. You hold respect in our community. You hold respect in the schools. And when I think of you, I think of Proverbs 20:6 that says, most men proclaim everyone his own goodness, but a faithful man who can find. And I can answer that. I have a faithful man, a loyal man. And I know that you put us before. You have us in mind when you wake up in the morning and you go out to work. You have us in mind to take care of us.
That's what a man is supposed to do.
Is that what a man does?
Especially if he loves his family.
Okay. So what would you say to women who are dating and they have children, what they should be looking for?
They should be looking for a man who isn't going to just look at them. They have to accept both. And they got to realize that if they're going to be in their lives, that they have to care for both. And that if it was if there were a woman, and it goes the other way, if the lady is a woman who says, look, I don't feel like doing the mothering thing. I'm going to go and I'm going to chase this man. Perhaps he can give me something better than my child.
Kind of woman is she anyway?
Right. You know, guys should just walk away. Ladies, if you don't have that guy that who wants to take you both, you know, as I call it a package deal.
Yeah.
Walk away. If you don't, walk away.
I think that for women, when you're looking for a man, regardless if you have children or not, there should be some principles. I think that a man should check 3 boxes. He should be a promise keeper. He should be a protector. And you, most of all, should be a provider. And I believe that you started demonstrating those qualities very early on in our relationship. When you said, I'm going to marry you, as soon as I get my master's, you fulfilled that promise immediately. There was no excuses. There was no, well, let me get my money up. You know, I just paid for tuition. You were a man with a plan.
There's none of that.
And the provision part was even early on, like I say, bringing Pampers, you know, to the table, bringing baby food, you know, from the very beginning, you know, picking me up from the train station when I would commute from the Bronx because you didn't want me to take the bus. And like you were making provisions, and, you know, you were a protector, you know, you made it very clear, you know, this is my family, you know. Yeah. You made us feel safe, you know. The children were able to come to you with questions, and, you know. And so, yeah, you checked those boxes very early on.
Yeah, well, it's easy to model something to what you've been exposed to all your life. It's very easy. And, you know, it was a natural thing. It would have been a struggle for me. Well, I wouldn't have done any of that at all if it wasn't demonstrated to me, you know?
Well, what do you think about marrying me as a young woman versus being married to me now at this stage of our marriage?
Well, you got to remember, at this point now, I wouldn't have had the challenge of raising a son.
Well, I'm saying
because at that point, you know, he would have been grown up. You know, he would have been out, and it would have just been us.
Well, I'm shifting. So let me ask you this way: how do you feel about being married to me, taking the children out of the equation? Mm-hmm. Just how I was as a young wife versus how I am now.
That's a good question. That's a good question, because it takes a certain type of man to put up with your foolishness.
I'm gonna let you have that. Mm-hmm. Keep going.
Yeah. But no, for real. You being if I met you when kids weren't around, you are a woman of God.
Yeah,
okay?
Yes, I am.
And if I had been, and you got to remember now, if I didn't even meet you, I don't think my life with God, my relationship with God would be the same.
Why?
Because you and the boys and myself, when we were learning together. You would have been well learned. I would have been a heathen. I wouldn't have put up with those guys who are not into the church. You know, when they hear about a woman of God or a woman that's in church, it can be a little intimidating to them. And the first thing that may come to their mind is, oh, I'm not all about the church. You know, if she gonna be in the church, I'm not gonna be sitting up there with her on Sunday morning, or I'm gonna party. I'm gonna still do whatever I want to do. You know, so me coming to you at this point, if I was still a heathen, I wouldn't have been able to appreciate you. I would have been missing out on something, because I would have just turned around and walked out without giving you the opportunity to tell me, you know, how the Lord has worked with you and how it can benefit me.
Mm.
You
So
know?
we did come to the Lord together, but you know, I think my roots kind of, you know,
Strong roots in the church,
accelerated my
Growth.
faith growth a little bit faster than yours. And even though you were coming along for the ride with me, you know, it was foreign for you to be in like convocations for 5 days straight, or going to maybe 2 or 3 services in one Sunday.
Right.
You know, that was kind of an adjustment.
Or going to Bible study on Wednesday night.
Faithfully.
You know.
But you know,
But that all worked for my good.
yes, it did. It worked for our good as a family.
Yeah.
Do you view our marriage as a ministry?
I do. I certainly do.
Yep.
Yeah.
In what ways?
Well, the Bible says, when a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing.
Okay.
You know, and that alone has been proven over and over and over again.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. Talking about someone being faithful, you could. I'm often told by a certain person that if I didn't hook up with them, my life would be horrible.
Yeah, I say that.
Because the woman that I would have hooked up with would have just caused me pain and
She
anguish.
wasn't enough woman for you.
Nah.
Yeah, it wasn't. It's true.
And she's convinced me of it.
Yeah,
so.
I say that 10 toes down. I know.
You know.
Yeah, I was made for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I you.
Yeah.
Just remember that. Too.
Yeah, I put up with your foolishness too.
It works both ways.
Yeah, whatever. So I have a couple questions. I know we're going to wrap up, but some people want to know. Okay. People want to know our business, and we're going to give them a little bit. So how do we navigate marital issues, and how do we deal with that around our children?
Oh, okay. Marital issues. The biggest thing in a marriage is, and everybody's probably heard it a million times, is communication.
Yeah, that's true.
It.
Yeah.
Knowing your partner, knowing how, if you come at them with your voice at 100, they're going to shut down. Or if you come at them with a voice of 100, they're going to match your energy too.
Yeah.
And none of that's cool.
Okay.
You know, when you approach any type of marital situation that may be negative, you have to speak. You have to approach it calmly. I'm trying to watch my words, hon. You got to approach them calmly. You have to have an open ear. You can't just stick with what you believe is right, because what they may believe is right may actually be right.
Mm.
You know, and you have to, without not saying second guess yourself, but you have to respect their insight as well. Okay. You got to look at it at both sides. Yeah. It can't be a one-sided thing.
Right.
And when you start talking, there has to be some compromise, you know.
Mm-hmm. That's big. Communication, compromise.
Yeah. Without that, none of that's going to work.
That's true. I mean, we've learned that. I mean, earlier.
You remember that old Teddy Pendergrass song?
What?
You know, it's so good to be loved by somebody. And he starts saying, it's got to be a 50-50 love.
That's true. That's true.
Not 20 and 80.
No, 70-30.
20/80.
20/80. It's got to be 50/50.
It's got to be 50/50.
Well, how about I submit to you? It's got to be 100/100. Everybody's got to put in 100. How about that?
There you go.
I think how we
200.
we have matured and evolved in conflict. You know, I will admit I can be a firecracker.
No, you are.
But you're my calm. But you do match my energy at times. And at times you are the calm that brings the temperature down.
Yeah.
But I think that we have evolved to, I guess, spirited discourse, we would call it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that no matter how spirited the discourse is, the love is always evident.
Always.
I don't think that anybody would look at our spirited discourse and think, oh, that marriage is in trouble, or, you know.
Not at that point, no.
No. But I think we have gotten to a point where we could just, like, you go to your corner, I go to my corner, couple minutes, I'll yell, what do you want to eat? And, you know, it's like it never really even happened,
right.
You know.
Right.
I think what was also important is that we made that pact in the beginning, and I think that's very key for people that are seeking to be married, or even early on in their marriage, to take divorce off the table.
Never an option. Never, ever, ever. Unless, to me, the only time
Yeah.
I would go back on that is if someone's being abused.
Well, for our relationship, that was never going to be.
Never.
So
No.
we knew that conflict would not be the thing that would, like, we were all in. I would always say, well, till death us do us, till death do us part.
Yeah.
Which means that I would just have to put you in a body bag.
Oh, you got jokes.
I was just saying that would be the only way.
Bury me in the backyard.
Bury you in the backyard, right under the magnolia tree. That would be the only out for you. So, you know, we took divorce off the table. So we had to find a resolution. But I think what's great about, and what became a key part of our relationship, I think is important, is our prayer life.
Yes. And how important.
I think that was the game
And as
changer.
a family.
As a family, we started
Oh my
that
gosh.
early on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think prayer settled us and centered us and gave us wisdom when to back off certain topics and conversations, and when to engage, when to disengage, and when to re-engage.
We knew what fights to fight. What,
what
battles to fight.
Like, there's certain things I know is no need to fight you on, because I know your position and it's unwavering, as well as you know
Same
that
with
about
you.
me. So I think prayer, I think wisdom and maturity has set in our relationship. Even how we engage our children.
Right.
Sometimes we go in good cop, bad cop,
That was fun.
Yeah. We still do it a little bit, with Solomon.
Now, but Solomon knows he game now.
Well, we'll have to go back and switch up on him. He thinks he knows. So this is going to be my final one, but I think this one people want to know. How do we balance our individual needs with the needs of our relationship? Tell people about your hobby and what the things that.
Well, I love playing chess. I love shooting pool. But my favorite one is astrophotography. And whenever I have an opportunity, I like to go out into dark spaces. I like to go camping. There's a club that I go to where we go out and camp for a few days, or even an entire night, and take pictures all night long of space. Okay, so that's my favorite hobby. Now, my wife, she loves her podcasting.
I do.
But guess what? I'm there to help her too.
Yeah, you're always there.
She supports my hobbies.
Yeah.
I support her hobbies.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Yes.
And it's great.
I think our individual
That's how
needs,
it's balanced, you know.
yeah, we allow each other to enjoy the things that we enjoy, and we're supportive of those things. And then also we make intentional time for one another.
Each other, there you go.
You know,
Love date nights.
We do date nights. We still do that, away from the kids, away from, getting away. And sometimes date night is not going somewhere. It's just being,
in the same space.
Yeah.
And enjoying each other in that same space.
Yeah. So I think we do it. We have a great balance. I think all of these things were learned. We didn't have a playbook. Maybe we made a lot of mistakes, but we learned very quickly that we knew we may not always agree on how we get there, but we know what the end goal is.
Right.
And so we were very aligned with the type of life that we wanted. God has graced us with that.
God has definitely graced us with that. I mean, there's nothing I would have done to change the situation. There's nothing. Good times, bad. Well, actually, and when the bad times were bad times was bad. When you look back, that's something I would not change. I would go through it all over again because of the result that I see that we have now. Any of that stuff taken away could actually have changed everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, nothing I would have changed. I'll go over it 1,000,000 times if I have to, just to make sure that, we're at a place of where we are now.
I love you, boo. You're my best friend.
Hey, you're my best friend. You're my wife. You're my kid's mother.
Yeah.
You're my lover.
Oh.
Okay. Love you, boo.
Well, there you have it. That's another side of me. You get to meet Boo, and he had certainly a lot to say. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for taking this intimate look into our lives. We shared quite a great deal about our journey. It's not always been easy, but God has graced us for this assignment. This marriage has been an assignment in the earth. And so we are doing it by the help of God. God has healed us. God has knitted us together. And I want to say to the single women, get you a person that's going to love every part of you. This is the greatest story besides the love of Jesus that has ever been told. At least it's my love story that has been unfolding since I was 5 years old. And God had him already formed and carved out just for me. And the person that's for you, God has made. He's right there. You've got to pray, ask God for the eyes and the sensitivity so that you know that when he comes your way, comes across your path, that he's the one that God is sending your way. And know that God has a person for you that's going to check those check marks. Promise keeper, protector, and provider. So thank you for joining me for this episode of Faith Walk Life Talk. I am your host, Elder Empress. This episode of A Greatest Love Story That Is Ever Told. This is my faithful man. I found him. Until we meet again, God bless you all. And stay tuned. We have some great episodes coming up next.
Thanks again for joining us on Faith Walk Life Talk podcast. Stay connected with us by following our social media pages to catch all our latest episodes. If you enjoyed today's discussion, we greatly appreciate your feedback. Please take a moment to rate and review our podcast, as your input helps us to continually improve and deliver high quality content. I'm Empress Henderson, your podcast host. Until next time, keep walking in faith and living your best life. But most importantly, you must pray, girl. Until next time, we'll see you soon. Bye.